Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Live for Bikes podcast, where we talk about entrepreneurship, small business, retail, and self-development. Today, we're going to talk about how to stay informed with business news, global events, and how markets affect your small business. So stay tuned. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about how business news, global events, and staying informed with markets is going to affect your business. So at the Live for Bike podcast, we talk about, again, entrepreneurship, small business, retail, and self-development. One of the biggest things that is going to help you to stay in business and grow your business and have longevity in any industry is to be informed. So keeping track on the markets and tariffs or any global events that may be happening, it's going to be really important to make sure that you're having and making decisions for the future. So I feel like a lot of times on the internet you'll find a lot of gurus that talk about how to start up a business and make $5,000, $10,000 a month and do it all for free. I find that that's a lot of snake oil. I think that when running a business, you need to be on top of that stuff. And it's one of those things like where when things get measured, things get improved. So staying informed with global events, even with big companies, when they do certain things, those things will affect how your business is going to function in the future. So, for example, when Google makes algorithmic change to their web search and you're not coming up anymore on searches, that's going to affect you greatly. So that's a real specific way on how your small business, if you're a retailer, how that's going to affect your business, right? So then one of the things that you could be doing to make sure that your business stays viable and in business for a long time is, again, staying informed with your markets, right? If you're having trouble finding a specific place where you need to go for your business, comment below of what area you are in, and maybe we can help you out to point you in the right direction. You took the first step on getting informed by checking into this channel. We here at the Live for Bikes podcast, we're going to focus again on creating value to you by informing you of what's going on in the markets as far as how they affect small businesses and teach you some of the mistakes and missteps that I have done so you don't have to go do them as well. So by staying informed, one of the things that I have that has affected us specifically is that for example, with us, we're a bike shop, so the beach cruiser sales have been decreasing the last couple years. So then what that means is that I had to pivot to a different type of inventory. So a beach cruiser is usually a single-speed bike or a 7-speed bike that's just for putting around at the beach or just locally. You can use it anywhere, but it's not a very fast bike. It's just really kind of a comfortable bike that you just put around in. And we found that sales on those kind of bikes have been declining in the last couple years. So this last Christmas in 2024, we decided to pivot out of that and focus more on the e-bikes. We are located in the California city of Bellflower specifically, so we find that the e-bikes have been just blowing up. So as a CEO and a small business owner here, I decided to just kind of focus and phase out those beach cruisers and get rid of them. So what I did with that was I took my POS system, which is important to have as a business, and did some analysis on how those bikes were selling, ran a report on when was the last time we sold some, and we were able to gather some information on how they are kind of just a slow selling product. So last Christmas, we closed most of them off, so we got rid of a big, huge portion of that section of inventory, and we were able to use some of those resources and invest that into more e-bikes. That's what's moving, and that seems to be what's really, really, really popular. So as a small business entrepreneur, your job is to stay informed of what's going on, again, globally in your local markets and what's how big businesses that are part of your infrastructure, how they're changing, how they are being affected with different changes, laws, regulations, or demands. Another example that I could give you is, for example, in around 2008 was the beginning of the fixie boom. That's when we were kind of starting off, and that's what helped us to start this business. We started around 2009. Found that there was a big, huge demand for a fixie bike, which is a single-speed bike that's a fixed gear that comes from the track bike family that a lot of kids were riding around town. They were converting used road bikes into fixies, and it was just a big boom where everybody was getting on bikes. So we jumped on that bandwagon, and we were able to open up a store again, and we have a video where we talk about how we started this business. But then I took that opportunity of that fixie boom to open up a official bike shop, and then we grew from there. And what I realized was, and I saw the opportunity of those bikes that I took advantage of, so I was able to open up a store, and then a second store, and then a third store. Then after around 2013, 2014, those bikes started kind of declining, and we kind of started focusing on other bikes and just started focusing more on road bikes, which do really well, mountain bikes, hybrid bikes, and just, again, we were able to pivot not just from the fixie bikes, but to other bikes that helped us to stay in business now for 15 years. And that's kind of the key concept, and the main point that I want to bring to you is that if you want to have your business be viable for many years, you need to be informed. You need to go to places like the Live for Bikes podcast and other places to be informed, so you're able to pivot and have make smart decisions about your inventory, about what's going on in the markets, and how to stay viable for long periods of time. So then by staying informed, you're going to be able to make decisions about your inventory, about how things are being affected. Another example that I want to give to you in my personal life is that we find that and we compete against a lot with big businesses such as Amazon and a lot of online retails, which I made a whole video about. So one of the things that we're choosing to do is pivot toward more information based and giving you value about business and business in general. So then by focusing on having this podcast, again, we're creating more value to you with this channel by giving you, again, examples and giving you information that's going to help you grow your business and bring awareness to the Live for Bikes shop. And that's one of the things that I did to pivot. And as the podcast scene grows bigger and YouTube, and possibly I just heard from one of my podcast that I listen to that that Netflix might be getting into podcasting. I think this is a smart way of pivoting my resources to help my business stay viable. Again, so if you're having trouble with finding information in your specific retail sector, please comment below and see how we can help you out there. In the bicycle industry, there's a magazine called Bicycle Retailer that really focuses on that information for the industry as a whole. They really that's their whole business model is to keep the bicycle store informed and how to again make smarter decisions about what purchases you're going to be making, what brands are being innovative, etc., etc. So let's get the conversation started in the comments on how we get you on the right track to get into the right places to give you the right information. Thanks again for tuning in. Let's get into our next segment of how to size up a bike for your kid. Thanks again. Stay tuned. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. On today's bicycle segment, we're going to talk about how to fit your kid into the correct size bike. So we get a lot of customers that come into the store that sometimes don't bring their kids with them and want to buy them a bike for their birthday as a present, as a surprise. So they typically don't bring their kids. So what I suggest you do, and the best way to measure your kid is to measure their inseam, which is the length between their crotch to the floor, to measure how long that is compared to the standover height on a bicycle. So the standover height, you want to grab a measuring tape, and this is a standover height. So on my end, this is 14. Right, let me see if you guys can see that, but it's okay. So this is about 14 inches. So you want to measure that against your child's inseam, and that's going to measure you the standover height of the frame. And what that is, that's going to be the minimum amount of height that could be to fit into a bike. So for example, once you get that information, we were able to better pick a size bike for them. Sizing for kids' bikes is a little bit tricky because I always recommend kids' bikes to be similar to shoes. You kind of want to get them a slightly bigger size than they can kind of fit on them, because kids typically grow fast, and it's going to be more expensive if you get them like 100% the right size. So if you think about it like a shoe, you want to get them a slightly bigger bike so they could grow into it, so you don't have to buy a bike so soon. And again, by measuring those two things, you're going to be able to get a way better idea and get a better measuring start on what size you should be getting for your kids. So the other thing to talk about as well is wheel size, right? So this is a 12-inch bike. So that's referring to the wheel size. That's not really going to tell you the standover height or your child's inseam. Then the seat height usually could be adjusted up or down, but then you want to again focus on the previous things that I talked about, because those are going to give you a way better start on what size to put them on there. So different bikes have different geometries, including kids' bikes. So sometimes they'll have a lower top tube and a higher seat, but by getting them on the correct standover height, you get a better sense of what size you should be getting. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, comment below, and thanks for joining us on today's podcast. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Here we talk about business, entrepreneurship, personal development, and more here. Today, with this portion of the podcast, we answer questions that we have from our community. So this question was brought to us by Erwin420 in our Instagram's DM. He asks, how much money do I need to start a small business? That's a real tough question. It's a real good question as well. It really just, to answer that, it really depends on what kind of business you have. So as you know from other previous videos that we've done, we started essentially with a free bike that we traded my uncle for. Then it snowballed into what you see here today. But again, it depends on what kind of business you have. So for example, if you want to start like a tool business, for example, that may take several hundreds of thousands of dollars, because what we find is from my experiences, say somebody comes into the Lift Bike store and then they see a bike that's a great price, it's the right size, it's everything they need, but they only see that one bike there, their psyche won't let them buy that bike. We've seen this happen many times where it's like the perfect bike for them, it's a great price, and they still don't get it because they don't see other bikes. So again, when people come into the store, they want to see 10 other options before they make a decision on there, and at least a minimum of 3 options. For some reason, that three number is the sweet spot. Sometimes when they see a lot more options, people get into this paralysis and they still don't shop. But think about this. Also, when you go into the store and you see a head of lettuce, when you see the last one there, you think to yourself like, oh, I'm not gonna get it. Something's wrong with that lettuce, even though it's like what you wanted. Like you wanted a head of lettuce, but you just see it's the last one, and you for some reason don't buy it. It's the same thing that happens to people when they come into the stores. So again, it just really depends on what kind of business you have, and it depends on what you're trying to do. The most important part is not the amount of money you start with, but the biggest lesson you can get from this question is that you need to know that it doesn't matter how much money you get, but you need to understand that the first year or up to maybe 3 years, you need to reinvest all of your profits back into the business. It's either to improve it, get more fixtures, spend on advertising, or to just make the business viable and be able to, provide you a good living wage for many, many years to come. So there again, there's a lot of get rich quick schemes that where people say, they teach you stuff on how to maybe have a online drop business, right? Shop. What is that called? The dropship business. And so in those cases, you may not need any money, but then how viable is that business for the future? Is that going to be a business that's going to be able to last for a long time if you don't have some kind of inventory, or how big can you grow that business? So in most cases, again, the amount of money that you start with is not as important as what you do with your profits. And hopefully that answers your questions. If you think I missed something, go ahead and comment below. Thanks again for joining us on today's podcast. We'll talk to you soon and have a good one.